Hi, my name's Elizabeth Scott, and I'm a former Tenneco/Drive employee. I do apologize ahead of time because my voice is a little awful. I've been sick the last few weeks and I'm trying to get over that still. But today we'll be looking at operations research and employee retention at Tenneco/Drive during company changes. The focus of this would be Tenneco Drive, the company. Tenneco was founded back in 1940, and they were a standalone company. They've since acquired several brands and sold off several brands and segments of the company as well. Tenneco is kind of known for doing this acquire and then split, as they've done last year. So last year they acquired Federal Mogul, and they've since become one company. Tenneco is looking to split into two companies come 2020, and they have started to segment their business based on that. We'll be looking at the Ride Performance Aftermarket segment, which will fall into the Drive category of the business. Drive will be its own business come 2020 again. Tenneco saw a steep dive in their stock prices this year as well, and I think this is directly related to the reduction of the workforce and the closure of facilities that happened earlier this year. Stock prices in August fell to a record low of $8. And there's also been a high rate of employee turnover at Tenneco in this time as well. In 2019, their budget sat for $10 million for employee retention and employee acquisition. And prior, it had only been $5 million. And that was for the entire company. This $10 million was the budget for the Ride Performance Aftermarket segment. So they have significantly increased their funds for employee retention and for employee acquisition as well. The research problem is to determine the root causes of the employee retention problems faced by Tenneco Drive during a time of vast change for the company. The overall research question will be addressed through examining 3 specific sub-questions. These sub-questions include the factors that affect individuals' decisions to leave Tenneco that are company controlled, and then what do employees at Tenneco think of the communication and trust at the organization, and what changes do employees within the company expect from upper management regarding transparency at the organization. Okay, so some outside research that's based on other companies and similar segments. One overarching theme I found in the research after I looked at my sources was diverse expectations. So in the workforce, it's obviously diverse today, and that also creates a whole diversity of the expectations of the employees. So today, the career level, the family, age cohorts, life experience, and generational expectations create different needs from the employee, from the organization. This includes benefits, flex time, what an individual is looking for when it comes to things like pay, as well as healthcare benefits. Another thing that employees look at today are leadership and retention. So corporate social responsibility, the corporate message, and employee commitment overall. Employees are looking for a corporate message that's strong, it's something they can stand behind and something they believe in. One study referred back to the millennial generation and how they would rather stand behind a company and work for a company with a good corporate message and good corporate social responsibility initiatives than it would a company with higher pay or better benefits. So it is something a company needs to look at today as a quote-unquote benefit of working for their organization. Employees are more likely to stay at organizations that they believe in the message behind as well. Another focus was personal relationships, and this focus is on personal relationships within the organization. Specifically, the organization relationships regarding management employees. So having that true open door policy where employees can come in and discuss their current hardships and how they affect their work life daily. In the examples used in the study cited, there was a reduction in workload that happened. Not necessarily a reduction in work hours, but reduction in workload overall, so that way employees were able to make their outside of the organization commitments as well. So the one example used is that there was an individual that worked at a company that didn't feel very comfortable with its management before and didn't feel the open door policy. So the research happened and the study happened that they implemented this open door policy, and they implemented employee-manager relationships where employees were meeting with their managers weekly in order to create that relationship. and to create an understanding between the manager and the employee. And they found that in the long term, over all of the cases, this actually benefited the organization and also benefited the employees. They had a lower turnover rate and they had more fulfilled employees overall. But the one individual in question had adopted a child from overseas, and with this open door policy and with the relationship with their manager, they were able to schedule their workload differently, and they were able to schedule their week differently so they could spend more time at home with the child and with their family, adjusting to a large change in their family dynamic. Another overarching theme was employer focus. So this one is entirely on the organization itself. Usually organizations look for cost-saving methods that save them the most money up front, and these include letting go of employees that have lots of experience or employees that have been with the organization for a long time. The studies I read on did show that when organizations decide to cut costs this way, they actually end up costing themselves more in the long run. It is harder and more costly to replace employees that have the necessary experience and the necessary knowledge to hold the positions they're in than it was to just keep those employees at a higher pay rate. This also showed employees that they were valued where they worked at, and it showed newer employees that they would be valued the longer they're there as well, as their experience and their time with the company meant something. So the research that I would be doing in this case, I would do it with surveys and with interviews. So there'd be an email survey to current employees, and there'd be an interview for prior employees as well. And then there'd be an emailed survey for former employees. I focused the interviews on prior employees for the sake of the sample size and for being able to interview less people. The research does focus on trust, upper management, and the reasons for leaving the organization in the case of prior employees. The scale that will be used is presented, and it ranges from strongly disagree to strongly agree for the survey questions. And here are the survey questions. You can feel free to pause on this and to read these over in better depth if you'd like. And these are the interview questions, and the same thing goes here. So there are various limitations to this as well. Different organizations have different cultures, and the culture at Tenneco may be something that's causing employees to leave, or it could be causing employees to stay. Based on the research is what we would find out. But different organizational cultures can have different effects on the employees. And then this is a Fortune 500 company. It's not a small local company, even though the campus is local to me. So it wouldn't be as relevant for small or mid-sized companies. This is also bound to the aftermarket ride performance segment of a 4-segment company. And again, the 4 segments of the company are currently 2 within the Tenneco side and 2 within the Drive side that will become its own thing next year around June of 2020. And this is also full-time employees. This is a big limitation on this specific experiment, as there are contract workers, subcontractors, interns, and part-time employees all within the organization at Tenneco. This does limit a certain segment as well, as Tenneco does contract out much of its IT personnel. The employees must also have been employed within the aftermarket ride performance segment in the last 12 months to participate in any of the segments. That includes interviews, surveys of prior employees, and surveys of current employees. So if someone left the company prior to the last 12 months, they would not be included in this as well. The small sample size is also a limitation due to the limitations of what can be gathered, but the sample will be diverse based on this. Based on the small sample, it'll still be diverse within that sample. It does hurt it that it's an optional survey and that no prior tests were done with the information. So in conclusion, employee retention and turnover is a top priority across the board. This is at every organization, not just Tenneco Automotive. This is currently just a problem with Tenneco. And again, with the market the way it is today and low unemployment, it is becoming more of a priority to this company, especially as it goes through these big changes. And it's going to continue to go through changes until the companies split. And then it'll obviously continue to go through changes until those 2 companies have settled. This is also going to help provide suggestions to upper management in the aftermarket ride performance segment for employee turnover overall. And here are my references as well. If you'd like to take a look at any of these, there are some interesting references out there. Along with The Authentic Way to Retain Hospitality Staff was an interesting read for me by Beale as well. And I appreciate you listening to this. Thank you.